Advocate. I'm your host, Bruce Senek. Before we get to tonight's topic, I'd like to tell you about some of the programs we'll be working on for this year. We'll be doing a review show on some of the issues originating from Town Hall. We'll have some special guest hosts, and we'll continue our Meet the Candidates series with candidates for local boards and committees up for election in the fall. Our show this evening deals with radon and what you need to know about this important health issue. January is National Radon Month, and with many people's New Year's resolutions to improve their health, exercising, eating better, etc., it's good to start with educational material and what safety precautions you need to implement regarding your well-being. Our guest is Dr. Raymond Sullivan, Brookfield's health director, who I believe has taken a more proactive stance in getting valuable information out to the folks than previous directors. Dr. Sullivan, welcome to Brookfield Public Advocate, and thanks for coming.
Good evening, thank you.
Please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I obtained my bachelor's degree in biology from Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. I went on to obtain my medical degree from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and subsequently spent 30 years in the practice of general surgery in Waterbury, our neighbor to the east. My main concentration for the last 18 years of my practice was in oncologic surgery or cancer surgery. So radon is a subject that's very near and dear to my heart.
I'm sure. And as a current cancer survivor, I appreciate your being on the show for this important subject. When did you come to Brookfield, and if you could tell our viewers a little bit about the role and the duties of the town's health director?
Well, after having retired from surgery, obviously boredom set in, and so I entered the field of public health, where I perceived a significant need. I became a public health director for the first time in Middlebury in 2006, and subsequently took the position of part-time director in Brookfield in 2009.
If you could tell the folks a little bit about January. January is Radon Awareness Month, and it must be pretty special considering it's not just a day, not getting just a day or a week, but it's whole month. And if we could put up the national map, what specifically is Radon Awareness Month's objective? Yes,
this month was set up actually by the Environmental Protection Agency as a National Radon Action Month. It was chosen particularly because concentrations of radon in homes and schools and other businesses seem to be highest during January and February, that is to say the winter months, when homes and schools are shut up for the most part, enclosed with little access to the open air. So consequently, radon levels within buildings will be highest during this month, and it was only appropriate that January was selected to emphasize the need for radon testing.
And the map that we had up on the screen showing the red portion, of course, being more of the northern states and being closed up for the winter, the occurrence is certainly the highest, and towards the south certainly the lowest.
Absolutely, and there are two factors there. Number one, as you mentioned, the homes and schools are pretty much closed up tight during this period, while radon can accumulate in homes and other buildings. And secondly, also, although homes on slabs are not exempt, you'll find that most of the southern homes are built on slabs as opposed to having basements, which are more likely to leach radon through various defects in the walls and floors.
Yeah. And we have another slide up on the screen. Would you tell our viewers, our audience, what exactly is radon?
Yes, well, radon is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas, so that there is no human means of detecting the presence of radon. That slide indicates that we're looking for action levels of what we call 4.0 picocuries. That's a measurement of the presence of radon in the atmosphere within homes and other buildings. And as such, it is also a radioactive gas. It is a naturally occurring breakdown product of uranium, which also occurs naturally in our rocks and in our soils. So it's not something that can be avoided, but certainly it's something that can be mitigated against so that we can take steps to prevent its insult on the human organism.
And is radon solely a gas?
Radon is solely a gas, yes.
Okay. What, if we could bring up another slide, what are the health impacts of radon?
Well, by virtue of its being a gas and by virtue of the chemical nature of the radon molecule, it emits what we call alpha and beta particles, which usually travel very short distances as opposed to perhaps other types of radiation that we're more familiar with, such as gamma radiation or such as X-rays, which can travel much greater distances. But by virtue of the fact that it is present in a gaseous form, it comes in intimate contact with the bronchial tubes within the lung and therefore has an opportunity to alter the cellular makeup of the bronchial tubes within the lung, hence its influence upon or causation of lung cancer.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're all too familiar with risks and consequences of smoking with lung and other cancers. How does the occurrence of radon compare with smoking? And if we could bring up the bar graph next for our viewers.
Yes, it's estimated in 2012 that there were approximately 226,000 new cases of lung cancer, both in men and women. It seems to be the primary cancer that affects human beings. In addition, there were about 160,000 deaths due to lung cancer during the 2012 period. It's estimated that radon, as the second leading cause of lung cancer, brought about approximately 21,000 of those 160,000 deaths. And therefore, as I say, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer, and we need to concentrate on it just as much as we do on smoking.
Okay. Now I'd like to ask the control room to put up another chart, and this would be on historical trends. Could you tell our viewers, Dr. Sullivan, how does radon rank in its threat in the U.S. and in Connecticut, and also what agencies, both on local, state, and federal, play a role in protection for the public against radon?
As I've said, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer, but on the trend map one can see, very fortunately, that there is a significant downward trend in recent years, both in smoking-induced lung cancer and in radon-induced lung cancer. So this is a real positive step, and it indicates that education with regard to smoking and education with regard to home and building testing is beginning to show its effects.
That's good. Now, I've heard there's a relationship between radon and radionuclides. Could you please explain?
Well, radon actually is a radionuclide. It's just one of any number of radionuclides. The definition of radionuclide is that is an element which is in itself radioactive. It may give up some form of radiation in the form of either alpha or beta radiation, or in the form of gamma or X-ray radiation. In the case of radon, it is primarily alpha and beta radiation, the two of which travel very short distances and can easily be shielded, but by virtue of the fact that radon comes in intimate contact with the bronchial passages, it can be a significant carcinogenic or a cancer-stimulating substance.
And I've also heard, I moved to Brookfield 8 years ago from Westchester, where I had city water and city sewage. But I've also heard, since I moved to town and reading the local papers over the last 8 years, there's so-called hotspots of radionuclides in the drinking water in town. Is that also the case with radon?
Our experience doesn't seem to indicate that that's the case. We have not found significant hotspots with regard to the results of radon testing. It's much more sporadic than the presence, for example, of uranium in drinking water. The largest concentrations of radium in drinking water seem to be in a kind of a spur that comes down right through the central district of Brookfield itself, including Brookfield Center. It has been found that the underlying rock is composed of younger granite, and many of the wells have been drilled through this younger granite, releasing the naturally occurring uranium. And so consequently, we have seen elevated levels of uranium concentrated primarily in the central valley of Brookfield. That does not seem to be the case with radium. Radium levels showing increased values is much more sporadic throughout the town, and they don't correlate with drinking water uranium concentrations.
Okay. And when my wife and I were shopping around in Brookfield, Bethel, and a couple of other towns in the area, I do remember a very nice home that we both loved, but in the basement there was a huge rock formation. That was one thing that we, kind of didn't want to have to deal with. And would that have been maybe more prone to radon in the home?
Well, one would certainly think so, but in point of fact, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. Case in point, for example, would be Marblehead, Massachusetts. The entire village is built upon ledge, and scarcely a home in the entire village goes without a projection of that ledge within the basements of these homes. And yet, there's no correlation between elevated radon levels and the presence of those ledges projecting into the basements. It's much more likely associated with defects and cracks in the floors and in the walls of sub-basements.
Okay. Now, also, first when we moved to town, I know that there was an asbestos problem in some of the schools, and there was remediation done on that. Have our public schools been tested for radon, and if so, how frequently? And if you could please tell us about the results.
Yes, the Brookfield schools are tested on a rotating 5-year basis. This is in response to Connecticut Public Act 03-220, which was an act concerning indoor air quality in our schools. And so consequently, every school is tested on a rotating 5-year basis, and I'm happy to report that all recent testing and past testing, I might say, has turned up certainly significantly less than the action level at which we would be concerned about radon in school.
Well, that's very good to hear, and I'm sure our viewers, particularly with those in the school system, are happy to hear that as well. Let me see, what do I want to go to here? In locations where radon may be a problem, particularly for new construction, are there certain safety designs or measures that can be done or are required by state law to be done?
Actually, yes. Most home builders today are intimately aware of the problem of radon that was seen in the past, and consequently, they build specific types of construction with the possibility of radon in mind, or radon penetration in mind. Older homes are also easily mitigated if, in point of fact, they are found to have elevated levels of radon. So obviously it's better to prevent the issue from the beginning, but as I say, most contractors are intimately aware of the problem and will build in preventative measures for the occurrence of radon in our newer construction homes.
Would that be, I noticed in our basement there's this white plastic tube that goes up. It's through the foundation. Would that be to vent gas underneath? Do you know, or?
I wouldn't know. It could be the vent for your septic, or for your septic system or your water system as well. But in some cases there are vents that are built in. However, every time a pipe penetrates the wall, it leaves the potential for the possibility of radium seeping in, or radiation, radon
right.
seeping in through the foundation.
Okay. And for existing homes, what kind of remedies, again, maybe older homes that might have an issue, or what kind of remedies are done for that?
Well, if in point of fact your home is tested and found to have elevated levels of radon, there are some easy steps that can be taken care of by a mitigation specialist, not the least of which is, for example, a ventilation fan, which can be installed at a relatively low cost and can easily remedy the situation, and in most instances reduce the concentrations, the elevated concentrations of radon, to well less than 99% of the effective levels.
Okay, well, it's good to know that doesn't sound like it's too big a deal. Unlike, I've heard some of the, I have a couple of friends in town that have the, I don't know, is it osmosis thing or whatever with the water, and that seems like it's a big deal. But this, it sounds like, is very simple, and that's good to hear.
Right. Now that's a horse of a different color. There we're talking about primarily about uranium in drinking water.
Right.
I think there isn't a person in Brookfield that's not aware of the fact that uranium can be present in the drinking water. And in recent years, the administration has taken multiple steps to try to bring clean water to a goodly portion of the town. Currently, as you well might know, there's the Southern Water Line extension going down Federal Road, and that will be further extended down to the Danbury Line in the relatively near future. So any number of homes and businesses along that line will be now supplied with uranium-free, or certainly uranium-safe drinking water. The Silver Mine line, for example, and the extension down towards the Green Ridge Task District has also replaced significant numbers of private wells, which showed previous higher levels of and unacceptable levels of uranium in the drinking water.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to get on the tangent, but let me just ask one personal question. When as I say, when I first moved here and reading about the water issue, I have a private home, so there's nobody really, I guess, monitoring or whatever. I did have my water tested, and thank God, it was okay. That was, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. Again, just on a personal note, is that something that if it tested okay once, that I can, should I redo this every few years, or is it something that I can kind of rest assured about? I don't know if you can address that or not.
Sure, sure. We recommend retesting about every 5 or 6 years. Okay. And again, during the winter months when the home is sealed, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. But is there one? I want to put up a picture of a radon kit that I understand when we were getting prepared to do the show. Brookfield did make free kits available. I understand that there was a rush on town hall, so we're out of them currently. But I don't know, do you want to talk to that? Is that something that we may be getting in at some future date, or is that something people should not hold their breath for, or if there are other places that people can pick up these kits?
Yes. Through the cooperation of the Environmental Health section of the State Department of Public Health, we've been able to offer free radon test kits. They're extremely easy to use, and currently we are out, as you said. However, we are expecting a new shipment within the very near future. I understand they were mailed out to us today, so we should have them perhaps by the end of the week. But we will continue to offer residents free test kits, and we encourage their use because the long-term effects of a radon in homes can be extremely significant, extremely detrimental to the health of the inhabitants.
Okay. And if you might want to tell our audience how you can be reached by phone. You're at Town Hall.
We are at Town Hall. We are part of the town website, and much information can be obtained on the website. That's www.brookfieldct.gov. And if you click on departments on the left-hand side of the page, health will come up, and if you click on health, you can find a good bit more of information on that page. In addition, our department can be contacted at 203-775-7315, and our secretary will be able to let you know whether or not test kits are in and available. The information gleaned from the testing is confidential. You receive a report. In the test kit, we also include a free mailer so that it is entirely free.
Good.
And the results are confidential. We do receive, as a department, selected results that have no names attached to them so that we can keep track of locations with regard to elevated testing. I am happy to say that after a couple of years' experience with that now, we have very few homes in Brookfield that have shown significantly elevated levels of radium within them. So I do encourage our residents to continue to test, and if you have not done it before, you'll find it an extremely easy procedure, and the results may be life-saving.
That's for sure. Well, I want to thank our special guest, Dr. Raymond Sullivan, Brookfield's Health Director, for appearing on our show this evening. We're going to wrap up. I want to remind our viewers that our air dates on Charter Channel 21 are Mondays at 4:30 and Thursdays at 7 p.m. We also post segments of the shows up on YouTube, where you can find us if you missed beginning of the show, or you want to see the show again or something. We'd love to hear from you, whether it be on the current shows, prior shows, or future shows you might like to see, and whether you'd like to see special topics shows devoted to certain topics. So if you can please contact us at brookfieldpublicadvocate@yahoo.com. Again, thanks to our guest, Dr. Sullivan, for appearing, and good night.